Imagine walking into a museum and seeing empty frames hanging on the walls. Not because of renovations, but because the masterpieces they once held were stolen in a single night, and never seen again. This is the story of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist, an unsolved art mystery that has baffled investigators for more than 30 years. It begins in the early hours of March 18, 1990, when two men dressed as Boston police officers arrived at the museum's back entrance. The city had just finished celebrating St. Patrick's Day, and the streets were quiet. The guards on duty were young, undertrained, and unprepared for what was about to unfold. When the fake officers demanded entry, claiming they were responding to a disturbance, the guards hesitated, but only for a moment. Believing they were dealing with real police, they opened the door. Within minutes, the two guards were handcuffed, taken to the basement, and tied to pipes. They wouldn't see daylight again for hours. Meanwhile, the thieves began what would become the most valuable art robbery in modern history. And the strangest part? They moved slowly, calmly, as if they had all the time in the world. Once the guards were secured, the thieves had full control of the museum. They didn't rush. They didn't panic. They acted like men who knew exactly what they wanted, and exactly how much time they had. For 81 minutes, the thieves wandered through the museum's silent galleries, cutting paintings out of their frames and selecting works that shocked investigators later. Some choices made perfect sense. Rembrandt's The Storm on the Sea of Galilee, his only seascape, was one of the most valuable pieces in the building. They also took A Lady and Gentleman in Black, a rare Rembrandt double portrait, and a small etching. Then came the Vermeer, The Concert, a painting so rare that only about 35 Vermeers exist in the world. But the thieves also chose smaller, less valuable items: 5 Degas sketches, a bronze Chinese beaker, and a finial from a Napoleonic flag. They even attempted another priceless Rembrandt but failed to remove it from the wall. They worked without fear of discovery. The museum had no motion sensors in the galleries, and back then, its security system relied heavily on the guards, who were now helpless in the basement. When the thieves finally loaded the stolen pieces into their car and drove off into the dark Boston morning, they left behind a crime scene so clean, so bold, and so confusing that investigators would be chasing its shadows for decades. The next morning, museum staff arrived expecting a normal day, but found disaster instead. The galleries were silent, frames lay empty on the floor, and the priceless paintings were gone. When police finally freed the guards, they described the thieves' disguises and behavior, but nothing led to a breakthrough. As the world learned of the theft, shock turned to disbelief. More than $500 million worth of art had vanished. Over the years, the FBI followed leads from Boston's underworld to European black markets. They investigated local gangs, suspected organized crime families, and even pieces of information that came from prison conversations. Each promising clue eventually fell apart. No ransom note ever appeared. No verified sighting of the stolen art ever surfaced. The museum desperately wanted the pieces back, not just for their value, but because Isabella Stewart Gardner's will required that the galleries remain exactly as she designed them. The empty frames, still hanging in place today, became symbols of a wound that has never healed. And as time passed, the heist transformed from a police case into a modern legend, fueling documentaries, books, rumors, and countless theories. One of the earliest theories focused on Boston's criminal world. Some investigators believe the theft was ordered by a mob boss looking for bargaining power against federal charges. Others suspected the art may have been used as collateral in underground deals. Certain informants claimed the works had been moved from house to house, traded like forbidden treasure. Another theory suggested the paintings might have traveled overseas, possibly to Europe or the Middle East, where wealthy private collectors sometimes buy stolen art for secrecy rather than display. The FBI also looked into professional art thieves, but the sloppy way some pieces were handled, cut roughly from frames, damaged during removal, didn't match the work of elite criminals. And yet the thieves' calm confidence, their ability to move freely for over an hour, hinted that they might have had inside knowledge. Some speculations suggested the thieves intended ransom from the museum itself, but no credible communication ever followed. Despite years of investigation and occasional bursts of new information, none of the stolen works have been recovered. Theories remain theories, and the truth remains hidden, locked somewhere between crime, rumor, and time. Today, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum continues to leave the empty frames on display, honoring Gardner's instructions and keeping the mystery alive for every visitor. The museum has offered rewards as high as $10 million for information leading to the art's safe return, one of the largest rewards ever advertised. Yet the silence remains unbroken. The heist stands as the largest unsolved art theft in history, not only for the monetary value but for the cultural loss. Vermeer's The Concert, Rembrandt's dramatic seascape, and the other stolen works are irreplaceable pieces of human creativity. Their absence is felt every day. Over 3 decades later, the case still attracts new interest. Investigators believe the art may still be out there, hidden, stored, or held by people who don't fully realize what they possess. And that possibility keeps hope alive. Because in the world of stolen art, recovery can happen even decades later. Until then, the empty frames remain like open questions on the museum walls. Who took the paintings? Where are they now? And will the world ever see them again? The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist endures as a haunting reminder that mysteries are not always solved, and some stories, no matter how strange, are entirely true.